And welcome into another episode of Tiger Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network, a Detroit Tigers podcast. I'm Kieran Steckley. With me, as always, a man who's got barbecue smoke in his lungs and red dirt in his veins. He is Cody Stavenhagen. How you doing?
That does not sound healthy at all, but hey, I get what you're going for.
Sounds like good living, though. Sounds like good living.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, the good thing about doing this 3 times a week now, we get to ride the roller coaster even more. The Tigers are back, baby. They had 2 bad games. They didn't hit. They get back home to a little Comerica Park and have a nice series opener against the Royals. Beat up on old friend Michael Lorenzen a little bit. Reese Olson back. Riley Greene back. So tonight, at least for one night, so we got some good things to talk about.
We do, and we'll try to filter in some of the stuff that transpired in Milwaukee post our last conversation, but can't help but, we're doing this just a little bit after the Tigers wrapped up a 6-1 victory over the Kansas City Royals, a team that, if we are going to kind of blow up one game, and let's just lean into it for the sake of having fun here on a Thursday night, Cody, is that if you were going to be looking for things to get really concerned about with the Tigers, it's that you are at home against a team that is reeling more, right? And you got 4 games at home there, and they're obviously going to be chief competition down the line. We all like the Royals as some of their talent there. So you don't want to have that letdown series in general, but obviously the opener of the series. By the way, Tigers 6-1 in series openers. Obviously, opening day, the one blemish there, kind of funny. Get the glowing reviews, national television. Get the glowing reviews on national television about your Detroit Tigers. So it was music to everybody's ears in the 3-1-3, Cody, because Riley Greene, came back. He was 3 for 5 today, and it's not like he was 3 for 5 and he was one hit short of the cycle, or he got a hold of a hanger and put it into the upper deck. Or he just kind of was a hitter today. And I actually think that's better. I think that's actually a better sign of him kind of, getting out of the slump that he's on. 1 for his last 34 coming in, had a 0 for 20 streak in there, right? I'd actually rather see him kind of do this. And by the way, do it in run producing situations as well. So that kind of stuff was good to see. And then Reese Olson kind of getting back on track a little bit. 5 innings, 4 hits. He had a couple walks there, and I didn't write down the strikeouts, so I'll look at that real quick. Sorry, doing this live, and 5 strikeouts. The changeup was working for Reese Olson, so the Tigers changed up a lot of things that were not going so well for them recently. There's your pun.
There you go. Well, yeah, I think we should talk a little bit more about Riley Greene. It was interesting trying to look deeper into just what his struggles were. I mean, I watched some side angle videos of his swing, and it didn't seem like there was some glaring mechanical flaw, but his hands were lagging behind. You want to know why he was missing center cut fastballs? He was just late. You look at some of the stuff on StatCast, you can see pretty clearly he's standing deeper in the box, closer toward the umpire. I didn't break it down by game to see if he was doing that earlier in the season. My guess is that's probably an adjustment to being late. So in a way that adds up, but in a way okay, how do you fix that? Right. We hear hitters talk about timing. That's probably the most important thing as a hitter. It's probably also the most difficult thing to fix. I don't know that there was one snap of the finger that solved things for Riley Greene, but he did look a little bit more like himself. And you're right, it wasn't some breakout 2-homer game. It was suddenly he looked like a hitter again. He was productive again. 3 singles. One of them was an infield hit, but he did some things with runners on base. You could tell he was a little bit relieved, jokingly asking for the ball after his hit.
Chris
Fetter's reaction was priceless. We'll see. I guess maybe you guys string together more than one game to officially consider this slump dead, but I think this is certainly a step in the right direction. It's got to feel good for him, even to just be like, oh wait, no, I can do this. I'm pretty good at baseball again.
Yeah, and like I like the fact that if you're gonna have some sort of slump buster, it happens on a nationally televised game. It happens when you're across the diamond from a Bobby Witt Jr., who I always talk about them being linked. And I know what you're talking about too, about like trying to like psychoanalyze and microanalyze like the swing, because I here's how deep I got, Cody, and I did not reach any conclusions, but I was like, is he choking up more?
Hmm.
Yeah, like I don't know, but I was like, is it the same? Is it like a half it? Like I started like examining that to the fullest the extent that I had access to.
Statcast doesn't measure that one yet. That's probably the next wave.
Maybe we just gave them a new one. You have to, we got royalties on that Statcast if you start implementing that. But I was just like, like there's got to be something, because one of the things that Dan kept saying on the radio was it's not like he was expanding the strike zone a whole lot, and that's
Mm-hmm.
like, because really our history of doing this podcast and seeing slumps extend out, and the ones that come to mind are, obviously Javier and Spencer. It really is characterized by poor management of the strike zone. I think with anytime Torque swung at one low and outside, I was like, that bat's over. In previous year,
But a lot of Torque's issues was just timing too. What are we talking? Why is he missing a center cut
sure.
fastball? You look at the swing, there's no glaring flaw. He just wasn't on time. And then, yeah, he
Pitch
couldn't
recognition
cover,
we would talk about as
yeah.
well.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Javier part of that speaks for itself.
It's a little bit of a different conversation.
But with Riley Greene, but his swing is like so simple. Like if you want to characterize it that way, and by the way, Torx was too. That was part of the the conundrum, is that you were just like, well, what is there really to change except kind of getting the process started a little bit faster, and I didn't read his post game comments, but I'm sure he gave some sort of like, oh, I just had to stick with it, and
Yeah.
and I knew the results would come or whatever. So like, good on Riley for tackling this in stride. And the reason I kind of bring up that element of it, Cody, is because I gotta give credit to Evan Woodbury here. He said that Riley started in he was fifth or later in the lineup in like back-to-back games for the first time since he was literally a new major leaguer, like the first couple of games of his career. He's a young guy, but it wasn't like that was last year or anything. So it's been some time. And one of the things I've always given AJ Hinch credit for is that he's not just putting guys in a lineup and they're struggling, but there's not really anything we can do. We still got to put Riley 2 or 3. Like he always makes the adjustments based on what's going on. So I just want to make note of that. AJ's no fool, in case anybody wanted to have that take out there. So yeah, good on Riley Greene. We'll talk about Reese Olson here in a second after a word from our sponsors.
Take me out to my TV, a FanDuel Sports Network. Yeah. Watch me some dingers and RBIs. I'm just glad they have my local team live for its root for the Tigers on FanDuel Sports Network. Tigers games, announcers, and more Tigers games. Did I mention they have the Tigers? Stream now.
Anybody else got that stuck in their head all day, every day?
Oh, hey, seriously, I'm so glad you pointed that out. It is ingrained in my mind. I hear it on our podcast. I hear it watching the broadcast. I was in Milwaukee. They're playing it on the scoreboard, the Brewers version. That's how you know it's a good jingle. You can subscribe with
There
code
you go.
baseball.
There you go. It's made a lasting impression. All right, so Reese Olson was somebody that I think we kept kind of waiting for. Cody is a good way to put it, and waiting for him to put together a game, really a game like today, a game that he obviously was not 10 out of 10, a game that he had to that he looked at times, and then he got himself into some sticky situations and was able to get out of them. But you look at it, and the tools that are going to make Reese Olson successful this year and the rest of his career, like you're just looking for like glimpses of that on a random April weekday start, right? And I think that's what we got today. Like I thought I thought his command was a lot better. I know, again, there were some sticky situations there. I thought his varied use of the changeup was nasty. And that's what I mean. I wanted to see little things out of Reese that like kind of validated what I think his ceiling is. And we saw that today, I thought.
Yeah, a big step forward, a little bit more of the Reese Olson we're used to seeing. Things just hadn't quite clicked for him in his first, 3 outings of the year. The command really was the big thing. This is a guy who crisscrosses the plate, kind of paints that X if you look at his charts after games, and he hadn't really been doing that. He had been missing arm side. He had, not necessarily allowing his changeup to be as potent of a pitch. The feel for the slider wasn't there. It was just all these little things that were a little bit off. I was never overly worried about it, but it is one of those things. Let's be real, especially when a guy like Keider Montero, who we'll talk about later, comes up and at least looks quite interesting. It's like, all right, Reese, you do have to click eventually here. And that mostly happened for him. I still don't think that the fastball or even sinker command was quite as good as it can be for a guy who does have to be more command oriented, but it was much better. And I think that allowed him to use the changeup more, use the changeup differently. He induced 8 whiffs with that pitch, had a 39% called strike whiff rate, which is elite. You're trying to be above 30 there. He was well above 30. A really nice outing for Reese Olson. And a reminder that this guy's your number 3 starter in theory, and you can feel pretty good about him in that role.
What kind of guy is Reese? I don't know if we really kind of have talked about that all that often, because I'll just give you my impressions from just, clips in the clubhouse and then see him on the mound. He doesn't seem to be that overt a dude. And he's obviously got the baby face thing going on. But some of those, I don't know if it was Drive Line, but those kind of pitching lab videos that get released in the off season, he's got this force about him when he's just kind of doing his thing. That you don't necessarily see from a TV broadcast or whatever. And then you kind of juxtapose that with the fact that he was traded for, one of the more interesting personalities that baseball has seen recently in Daniel Norris. But Reese Olson, he's, I think we got a good idea of Skubal. I think we have a good idea of Flaherty. I think we have a good idea of Mize and Job to a couple of varying degrees there. But Reese Olson, what's this guy like? What's up with Reese?
Yeah, I think a lot of your impressions are pretty spot on. I think back to a story I wrote last year, kind of called him the Tigers' silent assassin. So he's a reserved guy now. He is pretty quiet. You talk to teammates, Reese can be pretty quiet, even behind closed doors. Everyone pokes fun at the rosy cheeks, and he looks like he's 12. He gets that from the teammates a lot. I think there was somebody last year told him he looked like a librarian. and so he has to wear that from his teammates. I think he's known for having those quick one-liner comebacks though. So Reese can be pretty sharp. Don't take that for granted. One story that stuck out to me from that article I wrote was he's a beast in the weight room. He had to stop lifting so heavy. He's a smaller guy, but he is strong. He is smart. He's deceptively funny, but definitely one of the more reserved personalities in the clubhouse for sure.
Yeah, real G's move in silence like lasagna, right? Is that Reese Olson?
The Reese Olson story, yeah.
Yeah, make that the headline for your next feature. A little long, but I think without the column inches down, I think you might be able to make that work. All right, well, let's go right to Montero then, Cody, because that was pretty much our whole conversation last time we talked, because it was just a couple hours after he got the call up. I'm trying to pull up his log right now, but he was but what you just described him as interesting. Yeah, that'd be a way to put it. That was some peaks and some valleys there on what day was that? Wednesday. They all run together, because he had 8 strikeouts. I'm pulling it up right now. He had 8 strikeouts, but he still gave up the hard contact that produced runs. So I have it right at 5 innings, 8 hits, 5 runs, and 8 strikeouts to go with only 1 walk. If you just have some limited views of that box score, you're like, all right, well, we talking about one outing before he goes back down to Toledo. Like, what are we talking about here? And then you watch the game, obviously, and there's more to it. But it seems like, as we predicted, they're going to give him another shot in some way before the dust settles, I guess you could say, for this long homestand. But everything you could have wanted out of Montero, you got, like, in all ends of the spectrum if you're just looking for looking for information on this cat.
Yeah, a reminder why he's really talented. Also, a reminder why he started in AAA. He has some things to smooth out, but he induced, I think, 15 whiffs. Hitters were not a fan of his slider. I went and looked at the pitch modeling stuff. I was actually surprised. Stuff Plus was only 99, so actually just barely below Major League average. The Stuff Plus on the slider is 106. That's good, but not really elite. That's the 7th best slider on the Tigers right now. And then he got dinged on the home run ball, but his location plus is still 102. So he's above league average. And that front, that's how well he was locating when he didn't give up the home runs. It was kind of an outing that was all over the place a little bit, but hitters looked uncomfortable against him, man. I mentioned cold strike whiff rate earlier. Well, his was 35 as a whole. That was really good. I think there's more in the tank with this guy. I think he can locate a little better. I think the fastball can be a little bit more of a factor. Even his curveball can be pretty good at times. The metrics on that pitch were really nasty. The Tigers are going to leave him up for now. AJ Hinch said they plan to give him another outing. He didn't necessarily commit to that being a start, I believe, but I feel like that's probably going to be a start, right? That seems to be what makes sense. And yeah, we got kind of one of the
full
questions
experience.
answered. What's up?
I said full experience. We got the full experience.
Oh, the full experience, yeah. And Jason Foley's not going to be coming up for him because Jason Foley, as I kind of foreshadowed, he's hurt, shoulder strain. I believe he might be going down to Lakeland. It doesn't seem like the vibes around that are great.
Yeah, probably won't be 7 days. Safe to say there, and hopefully it's something that's serious. But maybe it's one of those things that might explain some of the stuff that we had seen. Pitchers and fielders we've seen arm injuries kind of weird for the Tigers this year, just in general. All right, I wanted to transition to another sort of not fully cocked idea, but before that, we're gonna have to hear from our sponsors.
Kratz, Mother's Day is around the corner. Do not overlook it, and you need to go the extra mile for Ma. I'm talking to everyone out there. Gift idea. Go.
Easy. Storyworth. Scrapbook with stories. You get pictures, stories. You send it out to people. They put their stories in there. It's super easy. They guide you through the whole thing, and it's a keepsake for life.
Right. They'll email you questions. You respond with an epic story. Everyone needs this, right? And Storyworth makes it so much easier. And that's why it has more than 40,000 5-star reviews on Trustpilot with millions of stories preserved since they were founded over 10 years ago. Give all the moms in your life a unique, heartfelt gift you'll all cherish for years. Storyworth, right now, save $10 on your first purchase when you go to storyworth.com/foul. That's storyworth.com/foul to save $10 on your first purchase. Mother's Day is coming soon. Do not overlook it. Get it done.
All right, coming back here. I was thinking, like, look, Cody, if we're gonna be doing these podcasts on Tuesday nights and Thursday nights and varied lateness, like we gotta be able to have some fun and and just like kind of throw ideas out there, and they don't have to be fully formed yet, but just kind of like hash it out, just like a couple of guys at the local watering hole hashing out some ideas, so or thoughts or notions or anything. So it's pretty open-ended. This is a half-baked idea type segment. We'll workshop a name for it because that's somewhat trademarked by Bill Simmons and Kevin Wilde. So I was thinking as I watched this game, Cody, I was like, if you're going to play, like if you have to have Torque in the lineup, which as of now you do. Torque had him, broke the game open today, obviously. If you're going to have Torque in the lineup and you're going to play Colt Keith at first base, I just don't know I just don't know if it's sustainable to have Colt Keith start a game at first base and then he ends up being pulled for 2 at bats worth of game time for Andy Ibanez to play first base. You see what I'm saying? Like I understand he can do it. I understand that I just feel like that's not the best option. I feel like there are ways to go about that differently. I understand Colt is a first baseman, quote unquote, for this season, so he has to get the reps there. But there are some plays today that I would probably have liked to have a full-time first baseman there when Andy Ibanez. And it's not like he did anything wrong, but I would have been more comfortable with an actual full-time first baseman in the field there. And again, that's 2 at bats worth. It's not just here comes the lefty and we'll make it work for Ibanez in the field and configuration this, configuration that. I just feel like that's not the best model for this team long-term. When I say long-term, I mean the rest of the season. I understand why it's happening right now, and we'll talk about all those factors. I just don't think that's something that's got to be correct.
So what's your solution? You're just saying they shouldn't have pinch hit for Colt, or are you saying Colt shouldn't play first base, or Andy shouldn't pinch hit?
I'm good with any of those scenarios as a way to explore, because as we'll talk about later, it's not like Andy is a killer right now against left-handed pitching. I would probably rather I would rather have Torque at first base, or you gotta expand somebody's horizons on this roster to not have such a log jam on the right side of the field. As of right now, I'm not automatically giving Andy Ibanez at bats, but I'm saying 2 at bats in this game that was still within striking distance the majority of it. I'm just saying Colt's got to be better than that, I guess is my larger point. Colt's got to be better than being pulled for 2 at bats worth for Andy Ibanez to play first base. I think that's probably a good way to summarize what I'm getting at.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, for the most part of last season, Colt wasn't getting pulled against left-handed pitching very often. And now he is. Now, that was a spot where I believe he had a runner scoring position. You kind of wanted to add on to that lead while you had a chance. But if Colt Keith hits, it probably solves a lot. I think this is overall another instance where when today's game kind of clashes with the long-term view. Because I'm sure Scott Harris is telling AJ Hinch, we still got to get Colt in the field a little bit. And I'm sure AJ is well aware of that too. I don't even know if he would push back on it. Colt's, in theory, an important member of your young core. You can't just have him DH. But the presence of Gleyber Torres, you can't have him play second very often. And then Spencer Torkelson, who has returned to form or maybe even exceeded his past form, really throws a wrench in everything the Tigers had planned this offseason. Maybe it's time for Colt Keith to try out that outfield glove that they gave to Spencer Torkelson and hasn't been used yet. I don't know. Because you're right. The best lineup on the field right now is Torque at first base. It's probably Gleyber at second, although I'm not a big Gleyber Torres defense guy. So maybe there's a solution in there, which is to continue getting Colt more time at second than first. But if we think long-term, okay, you really want Colt to be the second baseman next year. But if Torque's hitting again, Torque's your first baseman next year. So this all creates a little bit of a conundrum for Colt Keith. Maybe that reinforces the fact second base will be best for him next year. I think there's still so many variables, though, that you're going to have to get this guy some reps at first. You're going to have to get him reps at second. You have to keep him engaged in the field. You have to keep developing him as a fielder. Remember how much better he got at second base last year. He was bad at points. And then by the last 2 months of the season, he was playing a pretty solid second base. I don't know that there's any grand solution here. It's a bug in your roster construction right now. It's an unintended consequence of Spencer Torkelson playing so well. Colt Keith can hit, you feel a lot better about it. If Andy Ibanez can hit, you feel a lot better about any in-game moves. He's in 120 something against lefties right now, and obviously this is a problem with him that dates back to July. At some point, you wonder, will he be replaced as the primary lefty killer off the bench by maybe a Jahan, who also isn't tearing it up against lefties right now, but could certainly be contending for that type of role. These are all some questions that are quietly unfolding beneath the surface right now, Kieran. So I'm glad we're at least talking about it.
Yeah, and again, I'm not trying to present a solution here. It's just something that's on my mind, and the Jahan point is a great point, and we'll talk about some of those numbers here in a second. But the Jahan point is a great point in the sense that, like, if you have Jahan at first base to replace a Colt Keith, you don't feel like you're underutilizing Jahan's defensive talent, right?
Yeah.
If you put, and I know he had a kind of a rough week at third base this week, but if you put Andy Ibanez at first base, do you think you're properly utilizing his defensive talent or defensive ability?
No, but that's a function of the optionality. Like, that's why Andy has the ability to play first.
Like, I don't know. Like, I would love to see Jahan maybe get a spot there, to be honest. Like,
well, if we're talking about stuff that doesn't actually matter, I think AJ should have hit Jahan for McKinstry earlier in that game. I think there was a runner on first and second. He let Carey hit a lefty, didn't go well, and then he let McKinstry hit a lefty. Benetti on the broadcast was saying, well, it's probably because you're going to get another righty. You have a little bit of a lead. It's like, I don't know. They had 4 runs. I would have tried to cash in for a run there. So what you could have done is insert Jahan for McKinstry. Ibanez goes to third. Jahan goes to first. Carey and McKinstry did end up getting a late game at bat against a right-hander. Carey struck out. Z-Mac rolled into a double play. So ultimately nothing that matters, but it was a little, it was one of those things that was a question in the back of my mind. And I wonder how much the defense and maybe lack of faith in Jahan at first might have played into any decision that was made there.
We did all this talk about first base all spring, and then and here we are mid-April, and it's like, Andy Ibanez is getting a little run there. That brings us, Cody, to our FanDuel Sports Network player spotlight. And I'm going to cheat on this. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm cheating a little bit because it's a players spotlight. FanDuel Sports Network.com/packages. Use code baseball30 for an extended trial. Yeah, Cole Reagan's coming up here, Cody. That means that some of these righties are going to be in the lineup, and they're going to have to do what they are intended to do, which is why they in some cases why they have roles on this team to begin with. So you mentioned Andy Ibanez. It's just batting average. I know it's not everything, but I just wanted to put a number out there. Andy Ibanez, 136 against lefties so far this year. This is entering today for the record. 136. Jahan, 214. Ryan Kreidler. I know he's not a lefty killer, but he's part of your rotation when the lefty's on the mound. 0.77 against lefties this year. The one shining light, Javi Baez, hitting 368 against left-handed pitching this season, Cody. So those guys together, the lefty contingent, they're not killers, not lefty killers, but the lefty contingent, the contingent against lefties, is our FanDuel Sports Network player spotlight. Use code baseball30 for an extended free trial. That's FanDuelSportsNetwork.com/packages. Use code baseball30.
Yeah,
tough task. I understand.
Cole Reagan's is really good. I'm a little excited for Jackson Jobe v. Cole Reagan's. 2 guys with some killer stuff on the mound. We knew hitting left-handed pitching was going to be a weakness for the Tigers this year. It was a weakness for them last year. We knew they needed another right-handed bat. They didn't really get one, but Spencer Torkelson has emerged to help that. I guess they did acquire Manuel Margot, who has not been able to factor in because he's hurt. Matt Vierling's been hurt. But you're right. The guys, you were counting on Andy to hit lefties. You're counting on Jahan to hit lefties. I mean, that's why these guys are on this team, and it just hasn't.
Hoping Kreidler gives a little spark against lefties. Hoping. Better than righty.
There's some wishful thinking that maybe Kreidler can contribute in that realm as well. It just hasn't happened. It was definitely a foreseeable issue. And look, there's still plenty of time for an Andy or a Jahan or even a Greiler maybe to get going a little bit. I think you're going to feel better when, I don't know. I mean, Matt Vierling wasn't a lefty slayer. I think he actually had somewhat reverse splits. So I don't know. Parker Meadows won't help you against lefties much, unfortunately. So you know what? You're right. You know who's been hitting lefties well? Trey Sweeney. Life makes no sense. That's all I got.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Kerry Carpenter's got a higher average than some of these cats against against lefties. So who knows? Who knows? It's so early, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to kind of dig into these little things, and I like, Cody, that you brought it up on Tuesday, and you brought it up now about the slight contradiction regarding like the win today's game stuff that AJ has, the schedule has kind of forced him to do. So this is obviously no criticism, but it's like, well, like, okay, well, you're not actually, there are some things that you are doing that is not.
It's a reality of a manager's job. Like you actually have to manage 3, 4, 5 days out sometimes.
That is part of the process. So,
and in the case of Colt Keith, manage a couple of years out,
Yep, juggling varied interests. So you think you want to be an MLB manager? All right, Cody. Anything else before we jet out of here?
No, that's all. That's all I got for now.
All right, having a lot of fun on a Thursday night. You can follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Cody Stavenhagen. I'm at Kieran_Steckley. Pod page at Tiger Territory _ YouTube, Instagram, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe, rate, review, follow, like all these things. You guys know the drill. We appreciate all of you. So for Cody Stavenhagen, I'm Kieran Steckley. Everybody have a great day.